And welcome back to World Sports Show here on WPPN LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. On the phone line, we have Yael Averbuch, professional soccer player. How you doing tonight, Yael?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming in on. It's a very big day. It's first day of Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to you and your family.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't know if you celebrate Hanukkah, but happy Hanukkah to you too and anyone else out there celebrating.
John and I, we always make a joke. We celebrate any holiday that is involving food. So, we celebrate it all.
Perfect. I respect that.
Yeah, December is definitely a month and not going on a diet. So, so we want to talk about some of your ventures off the field. I ran into you at the convention early this year. It seems about a year ago, but it was early January of this year with the little app that you have for players. Just wanted you to go over that app and where people can find it and how you got involved in starting that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little over 2 years ago now, I launched Football, and it's an app. You can find it in the App Store and download it. We offer a 1-week free trial for people to try it out. But basically, the whole idea is that I was filming a lot of training ideas, and I love interacting with players from all around the country and the world with sharing training ideas through video. I was doing it on YouTube, social media, and really what I wanted to offer was something a little more substantial that players could actually follow and track their progress. So essentially, that's what Football is. It allows players to do a weekly training session that I curate from a huge drill library I'm working to create of not only my own training ideas, but ideas from coaches and players really all around the world, from the pro level, all over the place. And the app is meant for players of all ages and levels. We have people from, like I said, all around the world training on Football, individuals, and then we have some clubs and groups who have signed up to offer it to their players. So really just working to grow that and offer people who care about training and the process of mastery something that they can follow, kind of like a blueprint based on all the things that I did over the years myself.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we always talking about like life after football, I mean, you are 32 and it's very young in the world of everyday life, but in the football world, I mean, you're starting to see the game, probably seems like it's getting faster. So you really have to start thinking about your future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's life after football? That was my initial reaction to what you said. But no, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really fortunate to have started it while I'm still playing professionally, but definitely intend it to, take me into the future and hopefully be my next big project following my playing career.
Now, in your playing career, you've been a lot of different places, played at North Carolina, you've played for the national team, you've played in Russia, Sweden, all over. I think like you've played on almost every single team in the professional levels here in America. What was some of the favorite stops that you had along the way?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. I've had, I feel really fortunate, like you said, to have played a lot of places and have had a lot of wonderful experiences in terms of the playing style, meeting people, playing on amazing winning teams. I would have to say, I really loved my time playing in Sweden in terms of overseas opportunities. I've had some really cool times overseas, but I played in Gothenburg, Sweden for 1.5 years and absolutely loved that. And then, I can't even name, I've had a ton of highlights here in the U.S. from playing college soccer at the University of North Carolina to then winning a couple of WPS championships for anyone who remembers the former league. And then now in NWSL, I played for the Washington Spirit, then FC Kansas City, which unfortunately no longer exists, but I loved playing there. And then this past season at Seattle Reign FC, which is an amazing city to play in, amazing club to play for. I really enjoyed that experience as well. So too many highlights to list for you.
Yeah, we were joking earlier about all the championships you have. You're running out of probably space in your cabinet for all the medals.
Well, I wish the medals were bigger, then I would be running out of space. But, no, I feel, it's funny. I feel really lucky and grateful to have had won so many big, important games and championships, like you said. But it's actually, now that I'm getting a little older in my playing career and really reflecting, I treasure other things almost even more, like some of the relationships I've built and the experiences I've had, living different places and meeting different people, almost for me, stand out more than some of those championship games.
Yeah, a lot of my friends and players that John and I here have trained personally have played over in the Scandinavian leagues, and we just hear all these great stories about when you're over there in the summertime. I mean, because that's when their leagues are. They kind of go at the same time as our leagues pro-wise. That you can be out there till 11, 12 o'clock at night because of daylight. I mean, that must be like a dream to go over there and have almost 20-some hours of daylight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Sweden and how awesome it was living there. It was pretty cool to see that as well. Actually, it was really hard to sleep, though, before games, so that was my only complaint. But, yeah, it's definitely coupled with really long, cold winter days, though. So it's not all fun and games in terms of the weather there, but definitely a lovely, lovely place to live, and I recommend visiting for anyone out there who has the time and resources to do so.
Now, being involved with the women's national team, and this is a year coming up with the World Cup, what was that experience like, just going through the ranks? Because you played at almost every single level, and just seeing, the growth of the game, and that we won the last World Cup, so now we got that, target that we are the best again in the world.
Yeah, it was my dream ever since I was a little 9-year-old soccer player to play for the U.S. women's national team. And I think, around the world, like you pointed out, the U.S. women soccer team has been at the forefront and extremely successful. So being a part of that group for the years when I was, part of the player pool and fighting to win a spot on that team, it's the absolute most competitive, talented environment out there for women's soccer, I think, and still now. But it has been really cool getting to play overseas a little bit and follow the women's game as a supporter and a fan of the game as a whole, and see how other countries are developing their teams as well. So we have a number of countries now who are investing in women's soccer, not only in domestic leagues. There are a lot of really competitive, amazing leagues out there for female players now, but also in their national team programs. So coming up through the system and seeing the U.S. women win the World Cup in '99, which really inspired me as a player. We still have that. I think, we are the team to beat in the world, but there are a lot of other countries investing a lot of time and that now have amazing female players. So I think the quality of the game is just growing as a whole.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, how we've always been like the favorites going to the World Cups, but now it's not necessarily an upset like if a USA loses to a Germany or Sweden, that the game has grown, that you don't look at the World Cup saying, okay, there's only 3 teams that can win the World Cup. We're expanding the World Cup now to 24 teams, that you can make an argument of about 7 or 8 teams that have a legit shot. I mean, that's good for just the women's game overall.
Oh, absolutely. I still say when people ask, what's the U.S. team's chance of winning? I still kind of say it's always 50% chance that the U.S. women's national team will win and 50% chance that someone else will win. But you're right. There are a lot of really, really strong national teams out there. And I think it's not taken for granted anymore. And that even speaks to the fact that, when the U.S. won in 2015, I guess it was, that's a huge, huge accomplishment with the parity in the women's game now. So the wins are still coming, and still, I think we're at the top of the game, but they're now even more valuable, and it says even more about the preparation of those players to still remain at the top so consistently.
And then, for example, like you're going against these players every day at practice and in WSL games. What is that experience like during a World Cup year when you have a lot of the international players that are going off? I'm sure that's a little fun banter going on in the locker room.
Oh, yeah, for sure, especially on the teams like, Seattle Reign. Like I said, I played for that team this past season, and we had a ton of international players. So it was always fun times in the locker room prior to international matchups. And then when our teammates would be away actually even playing against each other, it was always funny on our little team group chat because we didn't know who to wish luck to. So I think it'll be a really fun year for the NWSL as a league. And obviously with the Women's World Cup, hopefully it'll draw a lot of attention to the women's game, because I think the women's game is at the point where we don't need to anymore, beg for people to watch. It's entertaining quality play. Anyone who's a soccer fan should enjoy watching women's soccer. So I think we have a lot to offer with our league and with the World Cup, and it should be a great summer.
Yeah, we say that all the time. John and I would go to the local bars here in Philly, and they'll be packed wall to wall for Women's World Cup. And I think that's the true sign that the women's international game is here, when you're showing up 2 hours before a game and it's packed. And we're just talking a group game for the U.S., where before you guys were lucky if you got a couple hundred people to come to your games.
Yeah, for sure. No, the game is growing, and the fan base is growing, and I think it will only continue to get better. So I agree. It's really exciting and fun to watch.
Now, do you do any coaching and personal trainings? I know that being a women's soccer player, you aren't making $1 million a year, so you always have to throw yourself out there and get involved in coaching.
Yeah, that's really kind of the idea behind why I started Technique Football, to be really honest. I do enjoy working with players in person, especially the individual and small groups, really focused players who want to do that extra to take their games to the next level. But, it's exhausting, training and playing myself and then being out on my feet on the field. And I move a lot. I'm always living somewhere new. So for me, to be able to take what I would do with players on the field and put it into an app and spend the time to film all those drills and that footage and be able to offer it to players everywhere, and then I don't have to actually be out there personally with them all the time, has really been kind of the new wave of my personal business model. So it's been great to translate the stuff that I usually would do on the field with players myself into technology these days, which is absolutely amazing. So it's been a nice transition for me to not have to be out there physically every time myself.
No, it's good because a lot of the sessions that we all three of us, in our studio, we all coach and we all set up sessions, and so many of my sessions are kind of pre-mapped out. I mean, it's not that any coach could go do my session, but some of the basics, if I run a certain 3v2 to a certain degree, almost any coach can do it, or just a set of players, and I think that's the biggest thing, using technology to help better, especially like you said with these apps. Every kid's got a smartphone. We already know they're going to be on their phone for hours on a day. Might as well be on hours a day for a constructive way that's going to help them grow.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of it, too, and I'm sure you guys have seen this in the coaching world, is that right now in the youth game, and I think in youth sports in general, but especially the soccer world, everything is so mapped out for these players already in terms of they're just kind of following along in a system. They play for their club. The club tells them what to do. They have practice. Nowadays it's like 4 times, sometimes 5 times a week, games on the weekend. Their parents are driving them everywhere. And for me, I think the most important thing we could reintroduce to those players, besides them spending the time to train on their own, is the actual idea that they are in charge of their own development. And they can take back some of that personal ownership and decide to set a goal for themselves and do it on their own, rather than it being all laid out for them in programs and games all the time and things that are already organized for them. So I think it's a really important part of a growth of a player and person. I think for myself, if I look back at my career since the time I was really young until, even through my professional career, I gained so much confidence, and it was really an empowering experience for me to set goals and go out and work on my own to achieve those goals. So it's wonderful to have the clubs and coaches and mentors out there to guide you, but I think we got to put some of the onus back on the players to do it themselves.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm always giving my club players like homework, things they can work on their own, things they need to do just individually that you don't necessarily have time so much as a trainer or a coach. And like you said, putting that onus on themselves and building their own confidence up. And I mean, I'm a firm believer in, like you said, a lot of the coaches go out there and say, oh, well, I made this player better. No, at the end of the day, the player makes themselves better. And I think you hit the nail on the head about them just, spending time with themselves and setting their own personal goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think there are wonderful coaches and mentors out there, like I said, who can help players a ton on their personal journey. But at the end of the day, it is up to the player, and no one can do it for them. So, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, everybody out there. Give us the information of where you can find your app and your website so fans can go out there and find the information on that and just download it, because I know that I've downloaded and tried it out some.
Yeah, absolutely. You can check it out and learn more on the website, which is technifootball.com. I'll spell it for people. TECHNEFUTBOL.com. That's the website. But you can also just go to the App Store and search it. I encourage everyone, players, parents, coaches, download the app. Like I said, there's a 1-week free trial, no strings attached. You don't have to enter any payment info, anything like that. So you can just try it out, see what you think. If you have questions, there's a little contact form in there. It goes straight to me. So feel free to get in touch. And yeah, give it a try. See what you think.
So also, you're involved in the NWSL Players Association. It was announced a few weeks ago that the NWSL now will recognize that as an official player, association. That must be huge for you being involved, and just huge for the league itself.
Yeah, it's a really big moment for us as players, and it's so important as we move forward with the league that we as players have a voice and a strong, unified voice. So we've been working really hard over the past couple years to improve our internal communication among the players, and then also our communication with the league. Because as we're all aware, the NWSL is certainly a work in progress, and we want to be able to contribute to its success, just like the other facets we're all sacrificing a lot. The players, the owners of the teams, the league front office. We realize, we're all in this together. So our aim is to really have that unified voice and to help in the progress of the league as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely probably really hits home to you because you were in the WPS when it folded, and John and I actually were set up to work for the Philadelphia Independent, so suddenly we're out of job, and you're out of a job what you do for a living, so I'm sure that you don't want to see something like that repeat itself.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, it was devastating. I remember when we got the news on that, we were actually, a bunch of us were training in the off-season together in this indoor facility in Clifton, New Jersey, and we stopped for a water break and then saw the email that the league no longer existed. And it was just a really, really bad feeling to have been part of something that we couldn't help make succeed. So I think we feel really responsible as players in the NWSL to make sure we don't ever feel that way again, and that we can leave a legacy for, the young girls who are at our games. We want to see them playing in the league one day. So it's very, very important to us that we set it off on the right foot and leave the league a better place than where it was, when we started in it.
I guess a trivia question, you're involved in the last ever championship for the WPS. I'm sure that was a pretty fun ride that season.
Yeah, oh gosh, I didn't even think of it as the last ever championship now that you said it.
Man, you can go around. That's more useless trivia, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that team, it was a Western New York Flash in 2011. I mean, we had Marta Alex Morgan, Caroline Sager, Christine Sinclair. I mean, I could go on. I left out world-class players from that list even. So it was just such a phenomenally talented team, almost like a world all-star team now that I think of it.
Yeah, and just that final itself, going down to PKs. I mean, obviously John and I are biased because we're Philadelphians, but I mean, just the final itself, to see how tight that league is, for it to come down to PKs, it's one of those slip of coin. That game could have gone anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that we see the same thing in the NWSL, is that really on any given day, any team can win. And that's part of what makes the league so good and so exciting, is that it's literally an all-star team on both sides of the field, each game representing their club, like almost a world all-star team. So, yeah, definitely I remember that Philadelphia team. That was a really quality team, and there were chances both ways that day, and it just it couldn't have been a more exciting match. You
guys even had a squirrel run on the field, too. I remember that.
Yeah, I was doing some circles. Something went wrong with that squirrel. That was entertaining. I just added entertainment.
Yep, exactly.
It needs to come out and perform.
So what does your off season look like for yourself as a player? Because, like we said, you're getting up there. You're in your 30s now, and you're going up against players in their early 20s. What does an off season look like in a day in the life of you?
Yeah, my off-season is actually even more jam-packed than the season in terms of my training and then running the business. So for me, it's been really interesting. In the last 3, 4, 5 years of my career as an older player, which seemed to happen really quickly, by the way. I was a younger player, and then all of a sudden I realized, wow, some of my teammates are 10 years younger than me. But I've really started to tweak the training I'm doing, and it all started with my work with performance coach Chris Goras, who's now based in Richmond area. But he really changed my thought process and how I train and how I approach my athletic career. And for many, many years, I had spent pretty much all of my training just on working with the ball and playing small-sided pickup games, which, believe me, is very fun. But he kind of opened my eyes to the fact that it's important to also train as an athlete. And so I do a lot more work now in the gym, working on speed, strength, agility, and just my general athleticism, which actually, it's funny because I am an older player now, but I actually feel that I've had a little bit of an illness. I had something called ulcerative colitis. That's a whole other story. But prior to me having this flare-up of the illness, I actually felt that I was in, my peak athletic form kind of around the age of 30. And even now, despite my sickness, I feel that I'm stronger, faster, more explosive than I've ever been. And it's a lot of it's due to my changes in the way I train. And I'm much more focused now, too, on making sure that I'm not just overdoing it with the amount of training and the quantity, but instead really working on quality moments of making sure I'm increasing my strength and explosiveness, and I'm more rested when I'm doing those things. So I've definitely tweaked the way I train over the years.
That's good to know. I mean, you just gave us some insider tips to pick you on our fantasy team this year. So, I mean, you might be one of my second or third picks now.
Oh, gosh. That's a lot of pressure.
No, that's awesome to hear, because trust me, John and I both, we're in our 40s now, and you do have to approach it differently because of recovery and what you can do, and it's you can't go out there training and expect the same results. I mean, that's the definition of insanity, expecting the same results. Just, you have to factor in like the age and you have to factor in your IQ is going to change as a soccer player too. I'm sure you've seen that. You think differently going into different tackles and situations because your body reacts differently.
Yeah, no, very true. I mean, over time, in anything we do in life, our body changes, our mind changes. So I think it doesn't mean that you can't continue to progress. You just have to change your approach to doing so, like you said. So in everything I do now, even just in my life in general, I realize I need to approach it differently and continue to, research and find the best ways to get the best results out of my own performance. So it's a constant puzzle and a fun one.
I want to thank you for your time, especially coming in here on this holiday evening, and wish your family a very happy Hanukkah, Yael, and we'll see you soon on the field.
Thank you so much. Yeah, happy Hanukkah to you guys and all the other holidays. Happy all holidays to you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. Yael Averbuch, professional soccer player, also founder of Technique Football. So check their app out online. Pretty cool. I'm definitely taking a look at it. It's pretty cool. So we talk about that all the time as athletes is not just training to be a soccer player. We have a good friend here in the studio, our friend Anthony Bates, who does strength and fitness training. That part is so key that it doesn't matter what sport you're saying. It's taking care of that body and getting that body in the right shape. Because you've worked with all kinds of athletes, from soccer players to just professionals.
Well, you have to do some resistance training.
Because I was looking at you the whole time Yael was talking about how she just changed her whole approach to how she trains.
Resistance training can be body weight exercises. Sometimes it's dumbbells and kettlebells and medicine balls and weighted balls and things like that. It can't always be, just playing around on a pitch. So you got to get in there and do your core work, do your hamstring work, do your hip flexor work. That is not easy.
And it's interesting to think that we're still in the forefront of learning, how to better the body and keep the body and stretch the body out longer, because professional athletes, that's their job, that's their career. And longevity is one of the biggest things in sports. As you get into that 30s age bracket, you now start slowing down. Your body doesn't recover as well. And I'm sure you start working with you say you work with a lot of former athletes that just want to maintain.
Yes, and athletes, you train for results. You exercise for fun, you train for results. So your training there's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to maintain a high heart rate and keep your lactate threshold high, or increase your lactate threshold by maintaining a high heart rate, you don't really want to be going after the heavy weight stuff. You want to be doing the medium range stuff, the 60 to 70% of max. And that way you're getting strong, whatever muscle group you're working, you're getting strong muscles, but you're also keeping your cardio work in, and you are keeping a high lactate threshold, which allows you to produce work at a high heart rate. So that's really, for athletes, what they're doing is interval training.
Yeah.
Very short rests and maintaining a high heart rate throughout, and using what I call medium weight, not going heavy. We're not training offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Offensive linemen lift heavy. Soccer players do not lift.
Yeah, because I've heard soccer players don't need to bulk up, because that's the conversation I have a lot with trainers and a lot with head coaches. That really, some coaches I've coached underneath, that they stress so much about hitting the gym. Okay, what are you hitting the gym for? Are you just doing weightlifting? Because you can't get too big for certain sports. Like offensive linemen need to be big and thick, but like soccer players are a lot like wide receivers. We got to be quick and able to cut.
Yeah, and you train a certain way for hypertrophy. To get big, it's hypertrophy, and you want to train a certain way, and how many reps and the percentage of max, and you don't do that with soccer players. It's medium-sized weights, 50, 60, 70% of max, and keep a high heart rate.
That's
there
good.
You go.
That's good. So
a lot of one-legged work, too, for your knees and ankle joints. And by the way, I have all my soccer players training their bare feet.
Really?
Yes, because you're getting your stabilizer muscles engaged, and your ankle stabilizers and your knee stabilizers. It's something that I picked up from another strength coach. And seems like girls are funny about taking their shoes off.
Oh, well, if you open up a studio up in Hawaii, it'd be no problem. You know, open up in the South Pacific or Japan, because your wife's Japanese, John. You fit right in. Like, sure.
Well, they're self-conscious on whether or not their toenail polish is perfect. I don't know.
Like we care. No, so that's good. So you will be at our women's tryout, Philadelphia Lone Star Women's tryout on December 23rd. Be good to have you there, just to evaluate and look at over those things. And I think that sometimes it's good to have a person that doesn't know soccer to have somebody like you that knows something that we don't know about. And I think that I like having people like that to coach with, that all bring in their different points of view. Because if we all agree, then nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah, it's funny about soccer players who have never done core work.
Okay.
And they want to know, why do I have to do a plank? What am I ever going to need to engage my abdominal muscles and my obliques? And when do you not?
Yeah, that's the thing, is they probably don't realize it.
Yeah, when do you not need your core work? I mean, so anyway, it's a new world. You're not training with a cigarette and a beer anymore.
It's like the Babe Ruth League, kid.
That's my problem.
That's my problem. What do you mean this isn't a beer league?
Right.
Oh, that's too funny. I don't need to stretch. I've had a few adult beverages. I'm loose.
Touch your toes a couple times.
Sub me out, coach. And that's the thing, is about not to discount other sports and state. Soccer's harder than other, but at the realistic side in soccer, there's not many subs going on. You got to be able to maintain. You look at like a baseball or football, you're going in and out, in and out. You're doing your shifts. And even hockey, it's a different type of fitness, because you're going hard for about 2 minutes and then you sit. And it's a different type of explosion. And even I would love to have more of a conversation also when we have time to get you back in studio about just the different sports, about the different type of explosions. Like a hockey player is a different type. A football player, you got to be good for about 10 seconds and then relax. And in 10 seconds, it's just relax, explode, relax, explode.
And how about like at the 50-minute mark and you get the pass and you have to pick up speed.
You go to 100 miles an hour,
And so what does that mean? You're already been playing for 50 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you have to produce work at a high heart rate. You have to have a high lactate threshold to be a good soccer player. You cannot reach 70% of max heart rate and be pooped out.
Yeah.
So that takes a while to build that up.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. Got a good show coming up next week. We got Jermaine White from Atlantic City Football Club coming in studio. We'll have Anthony and more again. He'll be, like I said, you'll be at the tryout for the women Philadelphia Lone Star women's tryout that we have December 23rd in Conshohocken. Any final thoughts, John?
No, it's a good show.
So we'll be coming on the air next time after the MLS Cup final. I say Atlanta wins 3-1.
There you go. I'm going to go with Portland 2-1.
Oh, okay. We got to have a wild card in there. What do you think, Anthony?
Shootout.
All right, then shoot out, flip a coin. There you go. All right, we're almost out of time. I'm Charlie Flowe. He's John DiCriscio. He's Anthony Bates. We'll be back same time next week. World Sports Show on WPPN LP Philadelphia, 106.5 FM.
Thank you for watching a World Sports Show production. For more info, go to worldsportsshow.com.